Very good morning to all of you who have joined on this very important podcast, and a very happy Ganesh Chaturthi to all. And I thank all of you who have taken time off in this festive, Stapana period to join us in this important podcast. We are very honored to have Aditya Vikram Gupta in our midst, and he's an old IFT alum, graduated 10 years back, and he runs a very successful consultancy and placement firm out of Mumbai. And this podcast couldn't be more opportune as we see a lot of volatility going around in the job market, and with people like Aditya Vikram are there to lend a helping hand to all our alums in distress. Uh, Again, thank every one of you, and I pass on the mic to Samir.
Thank you, Ajay sir, and welcome Aditya Vikram. Uh, my first question to you would be if you could just take us through your IFT days. कैसे थे वो दिन? And then how did you jump on from college to this entrepreneurial journey, especially choosing this route of setting up a placement agency and so on and so forth. So
All
let's
right.
start with that.
So
Over to you.
I joined IFT in 2002 and graduated in 2004. So incidentally, exactly 20 years back.
Okay.
And it was so the reason I chose IFT was because I wanted to, I didn't want to stay in India. That's what was the thought process. And us समय ये था that if you do IFT, if you do an MBA from IFT, you'll get out of the country. Incidentally, I had also taken the Maharashtra CET and I was second in Maharashtra at that time. So I was getting Jamnalal Bajaj, which was the best college then, but decided to pick IFT because it was ranked higher. And
Right.
no regrets, beautiful campus. Got 2 wonderful years of staying in Delhi with a lot of fantastic batchmates. And it was a fantastic thing. So, while we were on campus, I was picked up by HPCL or Hindustan Petroleum Corporation. This was so my dad was working in Bharat Petroleum those days, and my thought process was I didn't want to be a part of an organization where my father is already working, because there will always be a plus or a minus associated with the kind of treatment that he's had over a period of time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's the reason I decided to pick up or take up with Hindustan Petroleum, because mummy papa ka tha that sarkari company, you should work in a government organization, this, that, they pay you well, they treat you like kings, and so on and so forth. So that's how I joined on board. And very honestly, my journey with Hindustan Petroleum was fantastic. I have zero complaints about how my career panned out there. I was getting promoted on time, very good moves, had a lot of feathers in my cap during my tenure over there. So while we were in 2008, so incidentally, my sister is a postgraduate in HR, and she and my brother-in-law, in 2008, when the recession was at its worst, that's when we came up with the idea of starting Stalwart. So the flagship company, which is Stalwart Management Consulting, kind of found its seeds, so to say, when the economic downturn was probably at its worst. And that's when we started Stalwart with the intent of kind of helping people get jobs. For us, of course, at that point in time, it was early steps. And the thought process there was कि यार जो भी गलती करना है वो अब कर लो. You cannot really go too wrong. And probably, such kind of periods are the best period to start, because the price that you pay for making a mistake is slightly on the lower side.
Right.
So keeping that in mind, we started off, and I continued my journey with Hindustan Petroleum for another 7 years. And by 2016-17, we had started reaching a phase where we needed to expand. We had already established ourselves in those 7-8 years that were there. And I think the best way to expand is either to bring a professional on board or to get someone from the family who's qualified to run. So that's where I decided कि भाई हो गई सरकारी नौकरी बहुत ज़्यादा, and time to do my own stuff, and I left and I came on board Stalwart. So 2017 is when I came here, and last 7 years I've been running the show completely independently. My
Very
sister
nice.
has since moved on. She has a separate venture that's related to, FMCG, go-to-market, route-to-market company. In fact, incidentally, that is the only company of its kind in the country that's running the show right now.
Very nice. Very nice.
So that's the journey, and yeah, that's how I am. It's
Great,
all
great,
good.
great. Very nice. So, Aditya, there has been two data points which I'd like to start this conversation with. Right. Of course, very recently we read in various newspapers on IIT, IM, and these top premier technology, engineering, and MBA schools not managing to place their students across successfully. And of course, the average median salary in packages also going down. Plus, of course, there was a data statistic which was shared in the career development group also, which very indicated that as compared to the last 10 years, right, the unemployment rate in the country is 9.2, which is the highest in a decade, right? So I would like to pick your brains on this in terms of, because you're in the market, you're seeing the industry, you're seeing the trending. What is actually happening? What is actually happening? All these
So let's
data, facts, if you could correlate and put the right perspective. Ho
So
kya raha
let's just go back maybe 3-4 years back when we were in the midst of COVID.
hai?
At that point in time, a lot of people initially felt that there's no way to kind of continue our journey, continue our growth. And there was a sense of despondence for about 3-4 months until people suddenly realized that, hey, there's a whole world out there of kind of virtual setups and other things that are
That's
available,
true.
and people can actually start working through online methodologies. So that was the background to it, so to say, when we started the entire journey. Now, when this journey started, what we realized was that we need a lot of different type of skill sets, a lot of different kind of people. So all of those guys started jumping on board, and there was suddenly a boom of people. There was suddenly a lack of talent that was available. But what happens is the lowest of the cream kind of starts catching up over a period of time, and that's what we have seen over the last 3-4 years.
Okay.
Now, when we look at it in terms of the overall sense, say for example, if you look at the situation, say 10-12 years back, we had just about 6 IIMs in the country, and
Right.
therefore they were very, very, the elite, the premium institutes, and so on and so forth. Today, with half a dozen, in fact, more than a couple of dozen IIMs across the entire country, the quality education is now available to a lot many more people. So
Yeah.
where you earlier had a sense of maybe about 2,000, 2,500 top shot MBA colleges graduates, you probably are now having a situation where there are about 35, 40,000 such people that are getting out into the market every single year.
Okay.
So unless we scale up consistently in terms of the competence and the quality that we can bring as an individual to the table that we are wanting to sit on, I think this situation of not being employed or not being gainfully employed will probably continue a little bit. Now, coming to the sectorial situation, if you look at it, see, manufacturing as an industry is probably an evergreen one because people will keep making, population will keep increasing, and as we keep increasing, if you have a product that that is for the masses, people will keep getting there and wanting to consume that. So manufacturing is a slow and steady, neither too bullish nor too bearish. It will keep continuing forever if you have the right products in that category, unless the product itself becomes obsolete. However, when you look at it in terms of, let's say, the services industry, which is where almost 60-70% of people are finding employment today, this in turn is a direct function of what we are seeing with a lot of other manufacturing industry requirements. Now, as a service industry, with a significant increase in automation, plus a significant improvement in terms of resources that are now available freely, a lot of people have suddenly started realizing that they don't really want to pay truckloads of money for someone who's just going to come and bring in some gyan to the table, or is just going to figure out a way of maybe putting in a little bit of finesse to the overall process. And that is where the start of this downturn has started. So I think just 2-3 days back, I was reading in the newspapers that even premier consultancies like McKinsey have started churning out people or throwing out people.
That's right.
Which is a little bit of a situation that that is probably happening on account of the fact that they are not able to create and offer a value proposition into the market.
Okay. Okay. So, coming from a sectorial perspective, my next question is right pertaining to IFTNs only. We have about 700 people in the group, and if you saw the poll, there were about 150. That's almost 20 to 30% of the IFTNs already looking out for a change. Right? And is that a usual 30% is an absolute usual number, or do you think it's asymmetrical on the higher side or on the lower side? I mean, how's the benching? Or that is a statistic, because, and then of course, a lot of new batches, right, from FY20 to 24, right, which is the recent batch. There are a lot of batchmates in this segment also who are already looking out for jobs. It could be either dissonance at work, it could be a bad boss, it could be a dissonance in terms of what they were promised on campus and what they've actually ended up doing, and so on and so forth. So my question to you is one, and of course I break it down in two parts. The first part is, of course, as I mentioned, 30% of the group is looking out for a change. Is this a normal number? Two, the dissonance which the recently passed out batches are facing, how does one manage around it?
Okay. So, Samir, I'll answer this question in two parts. The first part being, why are people looking for a change?
Yeah.
And the second part being, is the percentage high or low as compared to what the situation is, right? So let's look at first, why are people looking for a change? You know, I've been in the HR industry for about 7-8 years now, and I've been interacting with a lot of different people. When I joined Hindustan Petroleum, like I said, I stood around there for about 13-14 years. Probably the only reason I left was because this was my own entrepreneurial calling. Otherwise, I would have maybe been happy over there working as a DGM or a GM by now. So the whole point of my wanting to move on was because I was doing something of my own. I was very happy at work. I was very happy with everything. But in the same period, there were a lot of people who left because they got some money extra from somewhere else, or maybe they got a different career option, or maybe they got a different industry choice, and so on and so forth. Coming back to your question, why are people leaving? I think in reality, if you look at it, we can give those answers of bad boss, or too much of work pressure, or maybe dissonance at workplace and all of that. But the reality is, it's an internal dissonance that's there with a lot of people. And I'm kind of, belling the cat here when I call this out. The fact is, as people, we ourselves don't know what is it that we really want. And that is the reason why, and the advantage is that, when you don't know what you really want, probably the earlier generations were maybe okay with the idea that theek hai, chalo, jo chal raha hai, chalne do types. But the current generation is not averse to experimenting. They are okay with the idea of making wrong choices. They are okay with the idea of realizing that what they're doing is probably not in line with what they want to do. And therefore, they are willing to, rectify or correct or maybe join and get into something else. This is a positive as well as a negative. Now, the reason why I say this is a positive is because, boss, you're not stuck with something that you would regret every single day of your life, unlike maybe a lot of people of earlier generations. The negative is, because you don't know what it is that you're really looking for, you keep tending to make switches which will subsequently in the later half of your career start creating a problem for you. So as a result of that, what happens is, when you're on campus, let's say, for example, if you're from a premier institute like the IIFT, you will typically end up getting, the worst case scenario is you end up with a job of about, say, 10-12 lakhs an annum. The best case scenario is, and I'm assuming Indian salaries, assuming that the guy is getting placed in India. The best case scenario is you end up with something in the range of about 30-35 lakhs, right? Both these monies, if you really look at it, are pretty decent to kind of sustain yourself.
Yeah.
But the guy who's at 10 will probably aspire for 15. The guy who's at 30 will probably aspire for 40. So the moment something comes along where they're throwing that carrot, people want to kind of pick that up and move on. What we forget in the journey is, are we gaining enough to be able to justify that incremental price tag? And what's happened in the last 3-4 years is exactly that, which is the cause of this joblessness. See, what's happened is people were needing skill sets. They were in demand. You had someone who was currently sitting at 20 and people made an offer of say 30 or 40 or even 50. IT was going crazy. Every Tom, Dick and Harry in the IT industry was getting 5 offers and 10 offers left, right and center. Unfortunately, a lot of unethical trades kicked in. People picked up 5, 6, 7 offers, scooted on all the others and picked up any one of them. And those kind of things started happening. A lot of keeping people hanging till the very last moment, which I'd look at as an integrity issue. But keeping people in suspense till the very last moment, and on the day that you're supposed to join or you're committed you'll be joining, you kind of back out and don't land up over there. So these kind of things became the norm. The money, the people were going to the highest bidders and they were kind of, getting placed, they were getting picked, and they were enjoying themselves, right? So a guy who was probably at 20 suddenly got an offer of 40, he would still go into the market expecting 50. And in some cases, they even got that. But what happened was that the job did not deserve a 50 lakh payout. But it was the desperation of the companies at that point in time, because log nahi mil rahe. So you do whatever you want because you want to sustain, right? Now, in these 4-5 years, that ecosystem, which is what I was talking about in the beginning, the lowest of these societies starts scaling up. That has happened. So that same job that you were earlier getting for 50 lakhs is now doable by someone who's probably willing to do it for, say, 10 lakhs or 12 lakhs with equal level of competence. So obviously, an organization would look at it and say, hey, you know what, when I needed you, I was willing to shell out that amount, but today I don't need that kind of competence from your side. So here's your 1 month or 3 month salary, depending on whatever is the individual organizational policy. Let's look at working together in the future. But right now, I don't need you. I have someone else who can do the job better. And this is creating a situation where there is a continuous number of people at the higher rung of the society who are finding themselves jobless, and not so much the lower rung of the society, right? So this is what you need to understand why it has happened. And yeah, that's what's actually creating the entire environmental situation. So my sense here is, if we just take a minute and pause and decide, do we really want to switch because we are not happy with something? Or is it really just that I'm looking at being a little greedier than what I am right now, and maybe I'm making 10 lakhs right now, I want to get to 15 quickly. If I'm making 15 right now, I want to get to 50 quickly, right? Where does it stop? That's the question that I think we as individuals need to ask ourselves.
Understood. Aditya, now to a large extent, सबके मन में ये है, the job search process or the job hunt process in itself is an extremely chaotic process, right? So before we come to the components of the job search process, right, which is, building a resume, going to recruiters, figuring out social media, interview process, and going to job boards and so on and so forth. How does one go about, building a roadmap with this objective of finding a job or the job hunt process? What is the roadmap? How does one plan, and what are the components? And then we'll come down to the components one by one, including the maximum focus on the do's and don'ts of the application process, right? So starting with you, how does one go about building this entire roadmap or a blueprint saying, "Ki, this is a structured approach. This is the job hunt process. That's my goal. How do I go about building a complete structure around it?" Over to you.
So I think the first step there is to identify what is it that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And that what is it could be in terms of an organization, or it could be in terms of a role. Both things work, right? I might be happy doing the role that I am in right now, but I'm not happy with the organization for whatever different reason. I believe that I can actually get paid a little better. The second situation could be, so that's the first step. You identify what is it that you really want to get yourself into. The second important and critical criteria is, do I have enough in me as an individual to be able to offer my services to an organization? Now, I got a call from one of our alums 3-4 days back, and we discussed this, Samir. This girl is currently working with a firm off campus. She was picked up by the firm. I'm not naming her or the firm right
Please,
now.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
but so the challenge was she wants to get out of what she is doing and get into a completely different industry, so to say, because she's disoriented with the kind of work that she's doing, and she finds it a little clerical in nature to be able to kind of scale up. My words to her were, one, you are wanting to get into an industry which is already full of people. So she wanted to get into credit appraisals.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, my point there was, what is it that you have in you
Yeah,
that will make someone from a credit appraisal business want to pick you up?
correct.
She didn't have an answer to that, except that I know I can do it. Now, the point here, what I'm trying to say is, as individuals, we always think we know a little better than what our next person in the line probably knows. But the reality is that's not how people outside in the external world will perceive us. So what we need is, number one, we need to have someone who will sit with us, who will tell us that for XYZ role that you are targeting, this is what your life is going to be like. And to be able to accomplish that role there, these are the basic qualities that you need. Now, these qualities could be in terms of some certifications, it could be in terms of additional knowledge, it could be in terms of experience, it could be just about anything. When we got into IIFT, or when we have that, the stamp of IIFT on us, what we effectively are looking at is, boss, I am slightly better than a lot of other people in the country, right? So that is one qualification that we as individuals have been able to accomplish. But along with this, is there something else specific that your target company desires? That is the question that you have to answer. And once you have done that, you need to start aligning. The second step is you need to start aligning yourself from a career perspective in that direction. So what that would mean is, number one, you're planning for things related to that specific role. You're trying to create a situation, maybe on social media like LinkedIn, where you're attracting attention of recruiters from those particular areas, making sure that your profile, your bio, your activities contain those critical keywords which are a mandate for that particular role. So let's say, for example, if I am, say I am a sales guy who wants to get into, for example, sales backend processes, because I'm totally sick of running all over the world and living out of my suitcase. So when I say I want to get into sales backend, I'm talking about sales operations, right? Which means it could be reward recognition, implementing certain parameters and so on and so forth. I need to make sure that my profile highlights enough of that uh, to make it appear attractive for the person who wants to interview me. Then what I do in the interview is going to be a secondary part over there. So understand what it is that you really need for that particular role. Define what it is that you're looking for that particular role, and then take it on from there. So first step, identify क्या चाहिए, क्या करना है, why do you want to get in there. Second, once you have identified what is it that you want, make sure that your career graph, both in terms of your actual experiences as well as in terms of your theoretical experiences, start reflecting that. Within your existing organization, try and see if you're able to identify some opportunities to be able to showcase those things that you're really looking for. Because once you, so this is like a cheat sheet that I'm giving you. When I am a recruiter and if I'm hiring for a particular role, I will always want to hire someone who has exhibited experience of that particular role or has done enough in that particular role for a longish period of time. So if I see
So,
a profile
somebody who's an obvious candidate, because that also helps you to close the position quickly and it makes
quickly,
money for you.
exactly.
I mean, at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, everybody has
Absolutely.
to see it's a win-win situation, boss.
True.
100% fit now, 90% fit. Oh, और आगे निकले, right, with those skill
Correct.
levels. Yeah.
Correct. So, and the second thing, which is again something which is extremely critical that people need to realize and understand. People are, in general, are not willing to punt on a new guy. So while it may get you a lot of social media likes, a lot of LinkedIn likes, where people will come and say, hey, you know what, I hired someone who had a gap of 25 years in his resume, and that person turns out to be the best hire I've ever made. The reality is, it's only for LinkedIn likes. Most people are loath to experimenting with such kind of situations for the simple reason they have a task cut out, and they need people to be able to deliver on that task. So the point is, if you have, there's no problem in taking a gap, but if you have taken a gap, logically you would want to resume your career in doing what you were doing before you took that gap. So long as you have done that, because that experience stays with you, that experience never goes away from your mind, it never goes away out of your psyche. So long as you are able to bring that experience to the table, even if there's a gap of 2, 3, 5 years, you will always be in demand. But if you are trying to get into something which you probably
Extent, before we just get on to the do's and don'ts of the application process, a lot of people say it's an extremely frustrating process. We post on LinkedIn, we post on various online job portals, we call up recruiters, we stretch ourselves wee bit, and 6-8 महीने तक कोई response नहीं आता, which is extremely frustrating. And it is like, applying to a black hole. Right, where there's no response, plus our energy gets sucked because finding a job in itself is a job. तो हम काम भी करके आ रहे हैं या हम without काम घर पे बैठे हुए हैं unemployed, and then the overall process becomes extremely difficult. So the point is, online is, of course, the ATS is, as you said, to a large extent is declining all the applications, right? But why this non-response thing? What is the basis, and how can one bridge that, right? So that, are you saying that to a large extent one needs to align oneself only to targeted roles which are matching to a large extent? How does one get across this, please?
So I'll tell you how it typically starts, right? Let's say today I decide I want to, and I'm talking from a candidate's perspective. I decide today I want to start searching for a job. So the first 5 days, without even getting into why I'm looking for a job and what is it that I'm suitable for, I'll first start by applying for roles which are my desirable roles, rather than what I am actually suited for, which is typically, let's say, a 1-up or a 2-up. If an experience says, or rather if the recruiter there has called out in his post, I'm looking for someone with, say, 5 to 7 years experience, I'll probably apply even if I have 2 years of experience or 3 years of experience, thinking that I can really fit in for that role. But hey, you know what? There are others there who actually have that 5 to 7 years of experience, who are suited for that role in line with what the hiring manager has really called out. So how it works in the recruitment industry is, you have a role, there's a requirement. The person who's hiring for that role has categorically called out what are the experiences that the person is looking for over a period of time. What that means is, the job description that is there for that role is very specific. There are certain aspects that are very, very specific. Now, whether you look at it from an automated process in terms of an application tracking system, or whether you look at it from a manual process where a recruiter is actually sitting down and evaluating each profile manually, the process is largely the same. What happens is, a person will look at it in terms of match the following. How many keywords from the job description are getting reflected as a part of the experience that a candidate has highlighted? And if there is a significant overlap, and now the significant is left to individual judgments, but typically you look at a 75-80% as a bare minimum benchmark. So if you have a 75% kind of a match happening, people will be inclined to look at that candidate. That person will get shortlisted for a physical screening. अब होता क्या है, because I want to apply for a job in desperation, I will click the apply button left, right, and center without really bothering about whether the job is actually suitable for me or not. What we don't realize is that because it is not suitable for me and I have applied, I do it 3-4 times with the same recruiter. The fifth time, the recruiter mentally has it, यार ये बंदा तो हर चीज के लिए apply करता है. Don't bother. And you have automatically kicked yourself out of that selection process or hiring process. So the best thing that you need to do is be very, very focused about what it is that you're looking for. Make sure that the job description that has been written over there is actually aligned to your actual current experiences. Don't let it become a situation of desirable. I want to get into that. Because you may want to get into it, but someone else is not going to be willing to take a punt on you.
Very correct. Very correct. Okay. So, Aditya, quickly do's and don'ts of the application, and Mishraji, then we will open the forum to Q&A. I think let the audience interact because they would have a lot of questions and it's a dynamic subject. So we anticipate a lot of questions. So do's and don'ts of the application process. Over to you, Aditya, and then I'll ask the coordinator to open the forum to questions.
Okay. So I think the first thing that is there is, in terms of do's, make sure that you have a certain degree of stability that you have exhibited on your resume. So here, one thing, the guys who are in their 20, who are 1 year old into the system, that means the 23 wala batch or maybe even the 24 wala batch, you guys can experiment once, max in the worst case twice, before you decide that you want to stick around to a career. Point what I'm trying to say is, if you happen to take, let's say, 3 jumps in 5 months each, chances that you will be considered for a job after that will automatically start dwindling down. And this may not bite you right now, but it will come and bite you 10 years, 15 years down the line. So first point is, make sure you have exhibited a certain degree of stability in the profile that you are kind of working on. Second, most important, most critical thing that is absolutely a must have. Make sure that whatever it is that you're applying for, whatever role it is that you're applying for, those roles, the critical attributes for that role are clearly visible in your profile, in your resume, or on your LinkedIn profile as an activity that you're currently executing in your current job. Agar nahi kar rahe ho, if that is not there, if it is a desirable wala situation, I'll repeat, don't apply, you will get rejected. Because no one, and I'm again reiterating this, no one is going to be willing to take a punt on you. There is a different way of approaching that. I will cover that subsequently. Third, there will be a situation always where you want to apply for something where you are a little bit borderline. Now, please understand, let's say, for example, there is a particular role that has been outlined. You will always have a situation where the compensation has been called out over there for that particular role. अब अगर ऐसा दिया हुआ है range, please understand that each role, each job that is there has a defined budget. Max plus or minus that is possible in these kind of situations, the flex that is given to a hiring manager is often as low as 5 to 10%, which means, say, for example, there is a job out there which is advertised with a budget of, say, about 25 lakhs. The worst case scenario in terms of an absolute mind-boggling exception that a person can get will probably go to about 27 or 28 lakhs. So if you go and say that I'm expecting 30 and I'm rigid about it and I'm not willing to compromise on that, boss, chances that you will clear that is going to be on the lower side. Fourth thing, again, a very, very important do, make sure that when you are applying for a particular process, you have clearly highlighted certain achievements which will make you a winner in that particular job hunt, so to say. Example, if you are a guy who's into, say, strategy, and you want to highlight what it is that you have done. Now, if I look at it from a very blunt perspective, a strategy guy is never going to be responsible for the results that he or she has got. However, a strategy guy has to say that he is responsible for these results. Meaning, you did something because of which the company, suddenly started growing and doing much better. or let's say you were part of a visioning exercise because of which you were able to align the missions and goals and a lot of other things of the different people, because of which the corporate dissonance reduced, and as a result of that there was an improvement in the productivity. Or say for example you were a sales guy. If you are in sales, you will probably talk about maybe a situation where you have been able to accomplish certain numbers. You've been able to achieve certain targets despite the fact that the numbers were or rather the challenges were appearing to be insurmountable at the start of the process. So these are certain things that you need to be able to highlight. If you are in finance, you need to be able to highlight this particular aspect, that let's say for example you have been able to save finance costs or treasury costs for your organization, or you have done some process improvement related stuff, because of which the work that you were doing, or rather your corporation has benefited by an X amount. So unless and until you are able to cull that out, unless and until you are able to clearly highlight those aspects, you will probably not be able to make the cut. Certain don'ts. One, do not apply left, right, and center to everything just because it's easy to click on that apply button. Second, be very, very judicious about what are the roles that you want to apply for. Meaning, do not apply for anything and everything there which appears to be relevant to what it is that you want to get into. Do not, and I'm again reiterating this, do not apply for something that you have not currently exhibited as a part of your overall structure and other things, unless you are okay to start off almost as a fresher in that field. Third, if there is an experience range that is given for a particular role, a max flex of about 2 to 3 months is what the person will consider on the lower side. Meaning, say for example, there's a role that says 5 to 10 years of experience. 4 years, 9 months, 10 months, someone can consider, right? 4 years, 3 months, you are straight out. Don't even bother applying. It will just not fly. If you are on the higher end of the spectrum, so for example, there's a role which says 5 years to 10 years. If they have mentioned categorically that they're looking for someone with 10 years of experience, if someone is 10 years to 3 months, yes, you can apply. But again, if you are already beyond 10.5 years, don't bother applying. They will not really consider you. However, there are certain roles where they will only highlight the minimum experience range, and they will keep the upper end of the spectrum open. In such cases, for example, someone says minimum 1 year. By default, you're looking at a maximum 3 years there. If someone says minimum 7 years, by default, the max you're looking over there is about 10 to 11 years, right? So point what I'm trying to say is, you be a little judicious in terms of how you want to look at it, because otherwise your seniority gets impacted in the organization that you're really looking at trying to get into. Another one, don't talk about your compensation being way higher than what the industry is. Now, typical, and this is something which I think a lot of people will tell you, people will say it is an industry standard to have a 25-30% kind of a salary expectation. What standard kisne banaya? Who has sat down and defined the standard? There is no such thing as an industry standard. So this is the first thing that you have to get into your head. The biggest, the red flag, so to say, where people come and say, hey, you know what, I'm expecting a 30% hike. Why? Because that's the industry standard. I deserve that. But boss, let me tell you, ऐसा कोई industry standard नहीं है. The hikes are not doled out because there's money growing on the tree. The hike is doled out because you have exhibited certain things which your potential employer wants out of you, and it is to compensate you for making a switch from where you are right now and getting into a desirable situation. So it is like an incentive, or it is to kind of motivate you to make that switch. That's the whole point. So when you get into a situation and you say, you know what, I'm expecting a 75% hike or a 10% hike, you need to be clear in your head about why you feel those numbers are justified. So don't give a number just for the sake of it. Don't just say something, mera colleague ko mila, I know someone from my batch who's joined, I'm on 20 lakhs, he's got an offer of 30 lakhs, मेरे को भी 30 lakhs चाहिए. नहीं मिलेगा. You cannot get into that kind of a situation. You will never be able to justify something like that. So I think few do's, just to quickly summarize: Don't get make sure that you're applying only to those roles where you are relevant in terms of you have exhibited that experience. Don't apply somewhere where you want to get into or where you feel it is a potential area that you would like to work in, but you don't have anything to back it. The only situation where this can change is, for example, let's say you're an MBA finance, you've done a course in say CFA, you've cleared one of your CFA levels. There the game changes. You've now got a certification which will allow you to make that switch, right? Let's say you have done a CFA 2 and after that you have done a CFA 3 as well. Then in that case, the game is a completely different game. You now have something which allows you to get into a new industry altogether. Say you are, for example, working in sales. You suddenly started selling, you are in product sales. Don't apply for something which is going to be, let's say, related to service sales, because service sales and product sales operate in a completely different environment altogether. Let's say, for example, you are into operations. Don't try and get into frontline over there because you will never be hired for that. So, point what I'm trying to tell you is make sure that you are applying to things that are related to what you have been doing. This is part one. Part two, a lot of us want to get into an organization, get into a role which is different from the role that we are currently executing at this point in time. Now, it's a good thing. In case you are committed about wanting to do it, you want to make that switch, I think it really helps if you can actually have a heart-to-heart talk with the people in your organization and look and evaluate opportunities that allow you to make that switch within your current organization. The reason why I'm saying this is because there's an old saying, right? A known devil is better than an unknown fairy. So you are the known devil for your organization. And if you are able to exhibit what it is that you need and you are able to highlight that in your current organization, and if they're able to give you the chance to do what it is that you're really wanting to do, you can use that experience of whatever you would have gained in the new role and then you highlight that in your subsequent job hunts and make the switch there, right? So if you want to move, so I'll give you an example. There is something called audit and there's something called compliance. uh, Normally these are two sides of the same coin. If you really look at it, the audit happens and then there's a guy who's responsible for making sure that the compliance is being done properly in line with the audit highlights. And similarly, the audit, the compliance fellow will kind of make sure that things are in place so that the audit cannot catch him. So if you are making that kind of a switch, yes, it is relatively easier. But if you want to get into, let's say, for example, from statutory compliance into process compliance, which is completely unrelated to the two things together, वो थोड़ा सा switch will become a little difficult. You need to first gain experience for doing that within your organization, and then you might be able to make that switch. That's it. Yep, I think.
समीर यू आर ऑन
आपकी
म्यूट.
आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
Sameer, you are on mute. Hello, Sameer, are you listening? You are on mute. We have lost him. The process.
So I think Sameer has become Mr. India now. Aditya, do we want to start taking questions in the interim then?
I think we can start taking questions. Yeah.
Just one request, whoever is asking a question, I think if you can just switch on your camera just for the duration of the question, it will help in relating a little better, please.
Hello, sir. My name is Gopichan. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, I was a pass out of MBA 17-19 batch. I worked for 1.6 years at Amazon. But after that, due to some personal health reasons, I had to take a break. So, it's a prolonged break. And only in March 2024, I was fully recovered. and now I'm doing some certifications in project management.
Okay.
So in my previous role, I worked as a trade compliance manager, but I worked in some projects. So right now I am pursuing PMP. Would it help me in my job prospects, or what is it that I really need to do to land in a job?
All right. So first thing, unfortunate that you fell on the wrong side of the table as far as the health is concerned. Now that you have decided to get back onto the job market, I think one thing that you mentally need to be clear about is because you had just about a year's experience, you will technically be treated as a fresher, and you need to be mentally prepared for that, right? The start is something which is going to be more critical, and I think once you have been able to do that, then other things can kind of build on over a period of time. No certification is of, or rather, I'll put it this way: every certification that you gain or every knowledge that you gain is always going to contribute something towards your betterment. So yes, if you are a PMP certified professional, it will help you. It should be much more beneficial as compared to, let's say, you being without the certification.
Okay.
In terms of how you can apply for a job, I think start looking at organizations, rather roles, which are in the range of 0 to 2 years or 0 to 1 year kind of experience range, which align with what it is that you're looking for. Highlight those aspects in your earlier experience where it will be a closer fit for the role that you're looking at exhibiting for yourself, and then maybe you can take it on from there.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. All the best.
Hi, hi, Aditya. Hi. Are you able to
Hi,
hear me? Yeah,
yes.
hi. Thank you for the insightful session. And just one question. So you yourself also mentioned that you joined IFT primarily because you wanted to move out of India. So how do you look out for opportunities outside India? And in this market where many people, when the world is increasingly becoming de-global and people are preferring locals, and so how to look for job opportunities outside India, and particularly with focus to Middle East like Dubai, etc., and Dubai, Singapore, etc.
So there are two ways you can do this. Method one, there are certain consultants which specialize in sending expats to different countries. These guys work with clients there, and they're responsible for sending Indians there. So that is one opportunity, or rather one source that you can kind of connect with, and kind of talk to them in terms of searching for opportunities for you that will be suitable for those roles. The second is build a direct connect through alum network with people in and around those areas, and try and see if you can kind of leverage on that particular aspect. So I think the logical way is, let's say, for example, you're looking for an opportunity in Dubai. Speak to maybe some batchmate of yours who is currently situated there, or maybe a senior, or one of your super seniors. Talk to them. See if you are able to actually let them know that you're looking out. This is the kind of role that you would be interested in, so that the person can keep you in his or her mind. And जितने ज़्यादा लोगों के साथ तुम connect कर पाओगे, I think that will help you. Simultaneously, to reiterate, look at job consultants or recruitment consultants who place people abroad, and you can find this out simply by looking at the number of job posts that are coming up on LinkedIn, or maybe you can look at the same thing on, say, a Naukri or an IIM jobs. Connect with them one-on-one, and then try and highlight that you're available, and then go ahead from there.
Sure. Thank you.
Uh, hi Aditya, Vikas here
Hi,
from
Vikas.
2008-10 batch.
Yeah.
So
Sorry,
I
Vikas
just
from?
want to take up 2008-10 batch.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just want to take up on this, career change in the company itself. You said that it's better to change a career inside the company first and then explore the opportunities outside. So how does recruiters see the resume of these kind of changes, career changes? Suppose I have experience of 14 years in a particular domain, and I changed a career in a different domain and worked there for 2 or 3 years. So my total experience is now 17 years. So how this 17 years experience will be seen by the recruiters as a 17 year or the 3 years? How they will give the uh,
So
going
Vikas,
into these
I think
kind
the
of CVs?
first thing that is there is what is the kind of switch that is there. If it is a logical extension where the earlier part of your experience contributes to you reaching where you have reached in the new switch that you have taken, then in that case the entire experience is considered in total. So, for example, you move from sales to marketing, then the entire experience is taken as total. Or you moved from, say, accounting to audit, then in that case, the entire experience is taken in totality. However, if you have moved into a completely different, unrelated field altogether, for example, you have moved from, let's say, sales into project management for operations, then in that case, it will be treated as the entire experience that you have overall will be divided by 2, and the relevant experience will be considered as those 2-3 years that you have talked about.
Okay, got it. Fair point. And so, what is the general trend in the market for the most experienced CVs, like more than 15, 16 years? Is there any general trend about them not being considered, or they are positions equally available for these kind of experienced people also?
So I think it's a very natural thing to have a broader base at the lower end of the pyramid, and as you start moving up, the base will start becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. So consequently, when you come with, say, 15 years of experience, the number of opportunities will definitely be much lower than, let's say, someone who's coming with 1 year or 2 years of experience. That said, there are opportunities at all levels. In fact, most of what we do is largely related to this particular experience range. And there are opportunities available, but you will need to find out people or recruitment partners who are operating in that particular domain. That is very, very critical and important. And second चीज एक और ध्यान रखो, and this is I think a strict don't for a lot of people. Avoid submitting your resume on company websites. There are 2 reasons for this. One, what happens is it inevitably ends up getting into a big bucket of pool, and no one can do anything with that resume. Meaning, so there are 3 types. Understand the recruitment process. There are 3 categories or 3 types of recruitments that happen. One is where it is being sourced through the internal recruitment team. That means the company will be having their own set of recruiters whose responsibility is to hire people for that position. Second, there will be internal referrals or employee referrals. That means I may know someone who is working in a particular role, and that opportunity presents itself in the company, and therefore I'll apply. I'll forward that person's resume. And the third is through external partners. That external partners would involve recruitment agencies and various other forums. अब होता क्या है, there is a duplicity process that inevitably kicks in. So what that means is, let's say for example, there is a candidate, and most of the big companies, good companies, they have a streamlined application tracking system which throws up that duplicity right in the beginning. So for example, you have applied on the website of the company. अब कोई employee referral में submit करने जाएगा तो उसको duplicate दिखेगा. कोई recruiter अगर तुम्हारा CV बनाना चाहेगा and submit करना चाहेगा तो उसको duplicate दिखेगा. So that person will not be able to process your resume or will not be able to share your profile ahead, and you will be left to the whims and fancies of or rather you will be hoping that someone in the recruitment team of the client or agency that you have applied to will pick it up. तो वो हर बार नहीं होगा. कुछ कंपनीज हैं जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ वेबसाइट के थ्रू एप्लीकेशंस लेती हैं. कुछ कंपनीज ऐसी हैं जो सारे चैनल्स के थ्रू करती हैं. तो जो सारे चैनल्स के थ्रू एप्लीकेशंस ले रहे हैं, नेवर, एंड आई विल रिपीट, नेवर सबमिट योर रेज्यूमे ऑन देयर वेबसाइट. On the other hand, if there are companies which are only using that as a channel, then of course you don't have a choice, you need to do it.
Okay. Yep, got it. Thanks for the answers.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, hi Aditya. Thanks for that
Hi.
session. My question is, I am right now into a financial services sector, and my role is sort of a product delivery role for the clients. It's kind of product implementation role, and I've been looking to move towards a more frontline role, like a relationship manager or a sales role. But
Okay.
again, like you said, I mean, I've been facing rejections for that. So I mean, in such case, what is the way to go ahead and get such roles?
Which batch are you in? What was your batch?
2020.
2020. So you have about 4 years of experience.
Yes.
And all 4 years you have been in the same industry, same
Yes.
role?
I've been in this role for 2 years now.
Okay. And what were you doing in the first 2 years?
I was into trade operations.
Okay. So you moved from trade operations into product delivery. And was
Yes.
it in the same company or a different company?
It's in the same company. I'm with Citibank.
Okay. So then in that case, I think logically try and see if you can move into, because Citibank hires quite aggressively. हालांकि अभी थोड़ा कम हो गया है because of the fact that Citi has been taken, India operations have been taken over by Axis. But
I'm
otherwise,
into the institutional side of it. So the
okay,
retail.
so then that still continues. Yeah. So then that
Yeah.
still continues. So I think then in that case, it should be logically possible to make that switch, because now that you have gained product delivery knowledge and experience, I think you should be able to make that switch within Citi itself. Talk to your people internally. Tell them that you're up for a relationship manager or a frontline sales kind of a role. You're willing to put in the hard legs required over there. Make this well known within the set of people who matter, and start connecting with people within your contact sphere who
Okay.
can get you that role within Citibank. So I'm sure you will know someone who might be maybe managing a team, maybe a regional manager, or someone that you might have otherwise supported in terms of product delivery.
Yeah.
And that guy has actually you worked with their relationship managers or something. Talk to them directly. Let them know that you're up for this, because a lot of times what happens is people don't know that you're looking for that kind of a situation, right? So they may not even be able to help you without that. So talk to them directly, and it works. They will be happy to explore those kind of situations.
But will it be a challenge to get a similar role outside of the organization?
Right now, if you try and get out of it and get into sales, because sales is not everyone's cup of tea. So that's why people are a little reluctant to punt on someone who is not having any background in that. But that said, sales वालों की कमी बहुत रहती है, because not everyone is willing to get into sales, right? So it is so when you want to get into a frontline sales kind of a role, I'll not say that people will be not at all willing to consider you, but normally they will be a little risk averse. They will look at it with a pinch of salt कि यार ये बंदा अच्छा वाला बैकएंड में बैठा हुआ है, जिंदगी अच्छी चल रही है, क्यों मरवाना चाह रहा है, क्यों भागना चाह रहा है? That's the typical thought process that will be there. So keeping that in mind, I think you may just want to explore the possibility of getting into that kind of a role within Citi first. It will be a little more comfortable for you, and then maybe from there you can build on and then switch and do whatever you're looking at after that.
Understood. Just one last question. I mean, you were talking about some particular keywords which are generally screened during in a resume. So, is there a cheat sheet or something that is there available somewhere?
No, there's unfortunately no cheat sheet that is available for this. Good question, but a lot of times what happens is, I mean, I wish I could create one like that and maybe publish it for 25 different type of roles.
Aditya, that's the question to you. Can you create one for the group? Just think it over. It's a challenge, but I'm sure you can overcome it.
हाँ, तो इसमें actually होता क्या है ना, every role has got a very different kind of a nuance, so to say. So I'll just give you a very simple example. You'll understand why such a cheat sheet is not very possible. Let's say, for example, you're in a product delivery role, right? And you're supporting deliveries of different type of products. For example, let's say earlier you were in trade operations. I'm using that as a leverage. Your responsibility is for selling structured, derivatives to, let's say, delivering structured derivatives to some client of yours. Let's say that is the thing. अब इसमें the tool that you are using itself might be different from the tool that someone else is looking for. So that tool itself will come along with a whole host of different kind of requirements. So example, you've worked on SAP, but someone may want Ariba. This is not for your field. I'm just giving a general example. So you're working in SAP, someone wants Ariba, or you're working in Ariba, someone may want, let's say, JD Edwards or some other suite of Oracle. तो उसके related जो चीजें रहती हैं ना, वो चीजें बहुत अलग हो जाती हैं, and that creates a little bit of a situation.
Okay. Understood.
So, Samir, I would have loved to do this, but such it is, I think, very, very difficult to be able to.
Sir, I am putting that request on behalf of the alumni. Socho, kuch karo. It will be important tool for everybody. It helps
Yes.
to structure this complicated, chaotic job search process. That's, I think,
Absolutely.
what
Absolutely.
Mohit is indicating towards, and it's a very,
I
very
understand.
relevant question and an ask.
Yes.
Mishra ji, we can move to the next. Mohit, I hope.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you. I think he's on mute, or maybe not able to unmute. We can take off on to the next question, and if he comes back, we can take RK, Sanat Kumar, Ravi, whoever is on the queue. Please, Mishra ji, follow the queue.
For this talk, and it really helps. So, what I could understand was it all boils down to the value proposition that you bring in. Whether you want to switch in the different domain or you want to be in the same domain and go up higher. So, the question is basically what should be in your value proposition in terms of, not just the keywords, but the entire sketch of, sort of a framework through which you can go to create this value proposition.
Could you be a little more specific in terms of what you're trying to understand there?
Okay, so for example, if I want to, jump up from where I am actually currently and move to a higher level, so for that I need to showcase my value proposition.
Correct.
Now, so that value proposition has to be created by you. Now, is there a framework that can be used to create that value proposition? So, for example, I will go to my boss and I tell them that, okay, I am currently working as this. Now I want to go to this next level. And for this next level, I know the requirements. How do I proceed by showcasing my value proposition to him?
Got it. Okay. So I think there are two parts to this. The first one is, I'm assuming you want to continue in the same field that you are already in.
Yes.
इसमें क्या होता है? I think that's the biggest advantage here is it is a more structured and a more defined environment. There's a logical progression, which means you're looking at your boss, you see certain attributes, certain qualities, certain things that the person is doing in his day-to-day activity. And you have to primarily try and create a situation where you are able to replicate that and make that a daily thing for them. Let me give you an example. Suppose you are an individual contributor and you want to get into the next level, which is, let's say, a team handling role. Now, if you want to get into a team handling role, logically, you need to exhibit certain traits which will be able to convince your superiors that you will be able to manage a team. How do you do that? 1, mentor people who are junior to you. 2, try and see if you can actually assist someone else in doing the work that they are doing. It doesn't mean you start doing it for them, but it basically means in terms of being able to provide them the necessary mentorship or guidance required to be able to do their work a little better. 3, see if you can take on additional responsibility. It could mean maybe representing your boss in some forum somewhere, or interacting or connecting with certain clients with his blessings. So those kind of things, if you are able to do, gradually you will create a situation where the person starts. It will not happen overnight, but over a period of 3, 4, 5, 6 months, the person will start seeing that we are gradually moving up and we have been able to scale up.
Okay, so that's fine, but my question is particularly to the level where I have some certain type of a framework where the value proposition, for example, I am faster, I can save time, I can do this, I can do that. So in terms of that, is there any framework? So whether you want to switch within an organization or you want to switch from one organization to another organization in a different role. So is there a framework which, sort of a thing which we can use when we are trying to switch? Because what happens is that these days, the problem is that the specific domain that you are in, the jobs are very limited. So people tend to switch from one job domain to another job domain because the availability of those jobs are very low, and that's why people are trying to, left, right, and center, just push that button for applying for a job. So, so the question is there any value proposition framework that we can use to showcase whether we want to switch within the same company or in a different company? So when I say framework,
I'll give you I got that sense. So I'll give you a simple answer to that. The role that you want to get into, the ideal role that you are defining for yourself, will have a described job description for itself, right? Let's assume, for example, you don't have access to that through any other source. I think ChatGPT has made life a little easier for everyone. You can probably just put up that query, you're working in so and so company as someone in ChatGPT mein dalo, and you'll get something out of there. Now, I'm not saying it is 100% reliable, but it will at least give you a guiding sense in terms of what are the key attributes that you will have to exhibit as a part of your overall DNA to be able to get to the next step. Once you have identified that, start seeing that becoming a part of your existing delivery mechanism, so that you are able to gradually start building up from there and take it on from there. That becomes your framework.
Okay. Fair point. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, hi Aditya, Dhiren from Microsoft.
Sorry, who's this?
Yeah, Dhiren.
Yes, Dhiren, bolo.
Yeah, just I try, because nowadays people, the way 30% change, lot of false calls are coming because people are sending the resume, they have a data bank. So I have a 2 decade experience. I am certified AI also, and basically I am working in this fintech industry more than 20 years. But the challenge now I am facing, I got a multiple call, and they are going to basically send a basically mail invitation. Sir, I want to basically look at you. Can you give me some time to basically discuss? So some cyber security call is continuously coming and basically irritating this basically recruitment process nowadays.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
No. I am saying nowadays lot of basically call are coming. Okay, false call are coming. Basically, we are recruiter and we are find out some job, but after that they get information, and they after that we are realize they are doing some fraud job.
Okay.
So some basically in this area, because they have a profile, they have a data bank from LinkedIn, they have a basically data from job portal, are they continuously calling and irritating basically the people okay basically we
I got that. So what is the question?
Aditya, 1 minute. Hamara shop, sir, can you identify what is your name and which batch of IFT, sir? Because it's reflected at how would the speaker address you, sir? So would request if you could just mention your full name and batch, sir.
Yeah. My name is Dhiren. I am a 2014 batch, correct, from IIT. So
Okay.
my question is very simple, because now people are finding the right job. So do you have any data bank and this authentication directory where basically one is the basically
not nahi hai.
One way basically people go in LinkedIn, second go to basically platform, basically apply this job. Third is they basically have any this top 100 directory, so that they can basically based on the seniority they can float the resume and basically figure out this job in this platform only.
No. So to be very honest, there is no directory as such. The most common website that people look at is Naukri.com and IIM Jobs. I think these are 2 platforms in addition to LinkedIn, of course. Plus, if you know people in your specific domain who are hiring, they can assist you. But iske alawa to, as such, there is no ready-made directory.
Okay. Thanks.
Right. We'll take on to the next question quickly, please. We just have 15 minutes, and there's still a lot of questions to be uh, dealt with.
Thank you. I'm Rakshit Kumar from EMIB 2008 batch, and I want to understand if I have a gap. Do I showcase in my CV as a gap, or if I also do consulting and part-time opportunities, mostly pro bono and things like that, to cover up the gap? So
No,
is it
so
better to
be
keep
honest.
the gap?
That's all I would say.
I'm
Be
doing
honest.
projects where some projects, consulting assignments and engagements, but that's not like, it's not paying me anything or not as much as I was getting earlier. And so that's what, whether I should keep them or if I should take it off from the CV.
Okay. So Rakshit, let me define the gap for you. A gap is basically moving away from permanent employment. Okay. Now, this could be because of any reason. It could be you got laid off. It could be because there was a problem in your family or yourself or something because of which you had health issues, whatever. It could be anything as a result of which you were not gainfully employed, right? Now, when you are not having anything at that point in time, there are two options that you have. One is you were doing something on the side to make sure that you were earning your bread. The second is you stopped doing anything and you were just genuinely bedridden. So jo bhi hai, put it up honestly. There is absolutely nothing wrong. If you're doing projects and not taking money for it, then obviously no one is going to buy that, right? People will not believe you. People will be like, bundle maar raha hai. So in such kind of situations, there's no sense in really highlighting that. If you are freelancing and if you are a genuine freelancer, please show that you are freelancing, because then you will also have proof available of freelancing. Proof will be in the form of agreements that you would have gotten into with people jiske liye freelance kar rahe ho. There would be some remittance that would have been made to you. It could be an online bank transfer or whatever. Those are the things that you need. But if you go into the market and say, maine cash mein paisa liya hai, then obviously people will not buy that.
No. Thank you.
Yeah, hi Aditya. Thanks
Hi, Chanakya.
you and the Admcom for putting this together. My name is Chanakya. I'm from the batch of 2020. I have a total of 8 years of experience, 3.5 years pre-MBA, 4.5 post-MBA. And I'm working with Adidas for the last 3 years now in sales and commercial excellence for the brick and mortar business. However, prior to that, for 5 years, I'd worked in the medical devices industry. And given that I've been in retail for the last 3 years now, it's finding it very difficult to go back to the healthcare sector in general, or medical devices in particular, and or pharma or OTC drugs. So any advice on that?
What do you want to get into? Are you looking at sales only or something else?
Could be sales excellence, commercial excellence, or could be a frontline role also, because I come from a medical background myself. So because that is something which is required in devices, interfacing with KOLs and doctors. So that is something I do have experience with.
Normally, Chanakya, the logical switch would be first try and get into a consulting firm where you are taken on board as a retail consultant for sportswear. Within that, shift into process excellence and become a process excellence expert or a sales excellence expert. And then from there, make a switch back into your medical devices. So we are talking about maybe a 3-year career path here. But let's say you get into, for example, say a PwC or a DY or something of that sort. So get into that, work with them for 3-4 years, during which after 1 year or so, you can start taking up projects which are related to process improvement and process excellence and sales excellence in the medical field. And then you become an expert there, and then you can get back into the medical industry, medical devices industry, so to say. So that would be a logical career move, in my opinion.
Got it. Thanks, Aditya.
Thank you. Any further questions left? We just have last 5 minutes, so we can just take 2 questions before we call it a wrap.
Hey, hi, good morning. Thanks for putting this together. I'm from the batch of 14-16. So you had a very interesting point on not applying directly to company websites. So I had a specific question. Let's say in certain cases, people have engaged consultants as well for that particular position. how can I figure out or find these consultants and probably apply through them rather than applying directly?
Good question. But I think that really boils down to how well connected are you with the network? And I think here it's more about people reaching out to you rather than you reaching out to the right set of people. So the way I'll put it is make your profile in such a way that you attract the attention of a recruiter who's actually hiring for that role. And the guy comes, वो बोलते ना मधुमक्खी गुड़ के पास या शहद के पास जाती है. So you have to become that शहद and let the madhumakkis of recruiters come to you.
Shahid bano, sir, Shahid. Mishra ji, let's move on. Sorry, we quickly have to move to other people as well. Mishra ji, if any further questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Aditya. I'm
Hi.
from the 1820 batch. So my question is, how do we get feedback from the recruiter and hiring manager? Because it's very difficult to get feedback, and it really does not help in re-strategizing our next move. So any do's about that you can highlight?
So honestly, what happens is a lot of times, if you have applied directly, you will not get the feedback. However, if you apply through a consultant, and if it's a good consultant, then normally they will insist on getting a rejection feedback because they engage with their clients and their candidates. So it depends on where you have applied and what you have applied to. So I'll give you an example. When I have, since we do only leadership hiring, what we do is when I connect with someone. So when I say leadership, I'm talking about maybe roles starting from about 15-20 lakhs till about 2-3 crores. That is the range in which my team operates. So when I'm operating in those roles, हम लोग का तरीका जो रहता है वो ये रहता है that if you have sent let's say 5 resumes and client has evaluated 3 of them, not found them to be suitable, we ask them for why those guys have been rejected. So in case if it's a resume reject, which means we call it a screen reject, and a CV भेजा, client ने बोला नहीं मेरे को इसको interview नहीं करना है, then that's a different issue. Then we will not be able to come back and give a feedback on that. But if the person has been interviewed, we make it a point to request the client to ask कि भाई क्या हो गया, क्यों नहीं आपको ठीक लगा, and then we share that feedback with our candidates as well.
Okay. So any tips on how we can approach the recruiter if we are applying directly or the hiring manager, if you have some insight on that? Like how to approach them regarding that?
So I think being upfront about it in terms of your conversational capabilities is something which is important. When you are engaging with the recruiter for the first time, make sure that you are able to understand, you come across as someone who's empathetic, because trust me, these guys are also under an immense amount of pressure. So come across as someone who's a little empathetic, say that you really want to crack this because you really mean it. Understand, ask for pointers from the recruiter himself or herself as to what will help you crack that interview. Trust me, you'll be surprised that a lot of these guys are very forthcoming with their feedback. They will tell you on their own कि क्या करना चाहिए. It could be maybe brushing up on a few parameters here and there. It could be maybe digging a little deeper on some other parameters. So जो भी होगा, they will also guide you. They will become your friend because they want to close the position probably more badly than you want to get in over there. That's how it typically operates.
Okay. Right. And just one more question, like when recruiters say that your profile is on hold, what are the usual scenario about that?
So my experience is about 20% of the times the role genuinely goes on hold. Okay. It could be because of either the requirement has changed or there has been some change of priorities or maybe they're developing something else. Could be because of any other reason. But 80% of the times, if someone says that your position is on hold, it normally means you've been rejected.
No, profile is on hold.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. 80% of the times, if your profile is on hold, it normally means that they are not going ahead with you.
Okay.
But 20% of the times, it means that the role is temporarily on hold because of whatever different reasons, and they'll probably evaluate and come back.
Yeah, Mishra ji, last question and then word of thanks, please. Over to you.
Hi. Good morning. Samir sir, Aditya, and alumni for organizing such a wonderful session for us in the morning. Thank you for the insightful session. Sir, I'm Aditya. I'm from the batch of 2020-22. I have almost 11 years of experience, almost 9 years pre-MBA and 2 years post-MBA. So I'm currently in the banking sector, and predominantly almost out of this 11 years, I have 9 years in banking sector only. I gradually want to make a transition to consulting, strategy and consulting space. So, sir, I have just two doubts. One is like, how do I prepare myself for this phase? Because currently I'm in a sort of a frontline sales oriented role. Before that, I was into a government bank where it's more operations oriented roles. So now, how do I prepare myself? And secondly, sir, like, uh, what sort of designations to look for? Means roles do I look for? Because shall it be senior consultant, manager? Because I don't have a prior work experience in the consulting. So as you have already said in the session today, I'll be treated like a fresher there because I have no relevant experience. So just these two doubts, if you could just help me out, figure out.
Sure. So Aditya, I think the first point here is you need to look at in your entire journey of the last 11 odd years, there would have been certain transformative activities or actions that you would have undertaken. Try and highlight those, try and bring those in front, scale those, because that is what will help you identify and sell yourself as a process consultant or a business consultant or whatever else that you're looking at. So there are two types of consultants. Ek hota hai where the person has started from the industry and has moved into consulting. The second is the guy is a consultant and is only a consultant. In the sense he starts as a strategy consultant. Right? So there are two distinct different types of consultants that you have. You will go into the I am a industry expert wala variety. So there is a demand there for those kind of people. You will typically with about 11 years of experience and 4 years post MBA, you will fit in at a senior consultant or a manager consultant in most companies. Depends. Each company will have their own hierarchies, but you will either be a senior consultant or a manager consultant in most organizations. And yeah, I think maybe we can connect offline on this one because how you need to present yourself, you will need to just work on your resume. You will need to talk about a few things where you have highlighted or where you have achieved certain, activities, or you have undertaken certain actions over a period of time as a part of your day-to-day operational work, which has helped you contribute and do better.
Thank you, sir. Points noted. I'll certainly improve. Thank you so much.
Thank you, all of you. So on behalf of the Alumni Relations Committee, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Mr. Adityavikram Gupta. Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable insights during this podcast. Your thoughts on the current job market, the intricacies of the application process, and the strategies for staying relevant were incredibly enlightening. Your advice on switching industries and adapting to the changing trends will undoubtedly help many of us navigate our careers more effectively. We appreciate your time and expertise, and we look forward to applying your guidance as we move forward in our professional journeys. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Aditya. Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aditya. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.